Hey, good morning, everyone. Uh, Welcome to SUG Columbus September session. We have Amit Kumar, Sitecore MVP for 4 times. Today, he is going to show us how to connect with xDB data, xConnect, and lots of things. xConnect is one of the fascinating feature of Sitecore. So we are very much excited to have this session. And I will hand over to Amit for the session. Welcome to
Yeah,
SUG Campus.
yeah, thanks a lot, Maulik. Let me share my screen and then I hope everyone able to see my screen.
Yes, Amit.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks Maulik Himadri for having me. So today I will be explaining about how to extend the analytics or reporting feature of the Sitecore and how we can utilize the xConnect and the xDB data to build up the reporting which is mostly required by the our business user, product owner, or the content authoring team to identify the progress of our content, or you can say that the data point how our content is progressing. So the agenda of today's meeting session is the introduction, overview of Sitecore XDB and XConnect Sitecore XDB data storage, ways to access Sitecore XDB and its data, and overview of I will be providing overview of the Power BI integration itself, and then we can have a Q&A. So you can feel free to stop me any given point of time if you have any queries. So I will be happy to answer those queries. Introduction is myself, Amit, and I am having around 17 plus of years of experience and currently working with the Azure as a IT solution architect. So I basically working on the Microsoft tech stack. So also on the Sitecore, .NET Bar, .NET Core, and headless CMS, all those streams I am working. So coming to the introduction of the session. So this session will help all the audiences to understand how important is xConnect and the Sitecore experience platform and how we can take the data which we are pushing into the Sitecore via xConnect in terms of analytics, and we can build up a advanced reporting system which are not present in the Sitecore. So those information I will be sharing, also how I can get the data out of Sitecore via xConnect or the direct accessing the xDB, those details. So now coming to the overview of Sitecore XDB and xConnect. So as you are aware that the Sitecore XDB is nothing but a experience database. Why it's experience? Because we are sending the data related to the user experience. User experience means that if any user is coming to your website and they are clicking on any of the link, or they are clicking on any button or any action they are performing, and if we are capturing those events of the user, so we will be generally sending data back to the Sitecore. So by default, Sitecore will track each and every user event which you are trying to do, that like accessing any pages, so that is by default active. But if clicking on any button or event, those are not out of the box feature which is present in Sitecore, which you can track, but you need to write a code with the help of a JavaScript or a server side. You can push back the data to the Sitecore. So all that data, user interaction, everything is pushing back to the Sitecore via xConnect APIs, and that data will be pushed to the XDB. So prior to Sitecore 9, the XDB was a non-relational database. We were using it. So in that database, MongoDB, we were pushing all the data. But from the Sitecore 9 onwards, it's replaced with the relational database like a Microsoft SQL Server, and all the data is being pushed into that. So XDB collection database consists of a shared map manager, and two shards are there by default, which is nothing but a replica of a XDB collection database. So it's depending upon the how the data is being flowing on the basis of a load. Some data will be goes to the shard 0 and some goes to the shard 1. So and one while you are accessing a data with the help of a xConnect API, so data will be combined from both the databases and it will be served to you. So you do not need to explicitly call or do any logic into that. And here you are seeing that the xConnect is having a three main things like a xConnect collection, xConnect collection search, and xConnect collection search indexer. Indexer is doing the indexing of the things, and all are accessing the xDB database to perform any analytics related things. So experience platform, right? I was talking about, so Sitecore is coming up with the XP0 topology, XM topology, and XP1 topology. So if you are building your website where you need to track the user tracking, or you need to do some sort of analytics things, so then you generally go with the experience platform. So experience platform is having the xConnect as well as the XP services are the two main component. And within xConnect, we are having the collection search indexer, and the collection database. So xConnect collection service is basically utilized by the you can say that the Sitecore content delivery servers where the user is directly coming, and xConnect collection search service is utilized by the Sitecore CM, because CM is also relying on the xDB and the xConnect to bring back the experience profile data and any sort of analytics data which is coming via xConnect search service. And collection service is being utilized by the your content delivery server. So any user which is coming to your website and xConnect is sending data, it is being sent via a xConnect collection service. And if you are having the headless implementation also, there also, and if you are using the XP, then the call will be coming from your headless rendering container or rendering web app to your CD content delivery role, and from there it is being passed to the xConnect APIs. So after from the Sitecore 9 onwards, xConnect is working as a microservices architecture. So you can scale also as per your need, but prior to that, it's tightly coupled. So there was no, you can say that, a possibility to scale it as per your need, but now it's a microservices architecture, so you can scale that also as per your need. And all the interaction of the user, as I said, that it's being pushed to Sitecore via xConnect API only. So as you can see that in this flow, so in the center you are having the xConnect web API, and the left hand side you are having all the requester who are accessing the xConnect client API, and they are sending the data back to the xConnect web API, and then it is being processed by the processing roles reporting database. So reporting database is generally being utilized by the reporting services. Whatever the analytics reports you are seeing it, the data will be aggregated from the xConnect to the reporting. So those are the aggregated data which is being pushed from the xDB to the reporting database. And this
So
is one of
Amit, sorry to interrupt. So I have one question
yeah
here. So
yeah.
at what time the aggregation will happen in the reporting database? Like,
See what happened that whenever you are pushing data to the xConnect, right?
okay,
And after that, when you will be signing out and your session will be expired, right? At that time, the aggregation of the data will be happening. But
okay,
data insertion will be happening in the xDB, because you know that in Sitecore, everything is being queued, right? If you are
yes,
publishing anything.
yeah,
So on the
correct.
basis of that, the queue will happen, and then it will be propagated to the reporting database when your session will be ending.
Okay.
So
On the same note, I have a different question. Like, say, for
yeah.
example, if I want to migrate MongoDB to Sitecore 10 database report, okay.
Mm.
Using the migration tool, okay. Okay, I
xConnect
create,
migration tool.
yeah, I did that, but the reporting, aggregation is not happening currently. I'm struggling with that.
So you need to, I think, rebuild the reporting database.
I
So
did
what?
multiple times rebuild the index, rebuild the database, but still I don't see the records in the reporting database. That's why my
So
question
one
arises.
other thing what you can need to check that, suppose if you are having the xConnect services, right? So
Okay.
the xConnect certificate are installed properly into that, because
Yes.
in the CMS server, suppose if you are having the IIS base, or you are having the web app, or you are having the container, right? So if
Okay.
are you able to successfully ping your xConnect APIs from the CD server or a CM server?
No, actually, I'm testing in my local. I installed MongoDB and everything in my local system.
The
It,
local system is also fine. So local
yeah,
system, you will be having a Sitecore XP0, right? So in
yes,
that case, everything on the same, right? So if you are writing any code in the, suppose CM, you need to deploy in a single web app, right? So if
correct.
you are deploying that, and if suppose if you are making a call to the xConnect API, because API URL is already there, right? There is a web
Yes,
app created in your local system, right?
local, yes.
So if you are making any code call via xConnect API into your CD page, are you successfully able to access or not?
I did not make that code call. Actually,
Yeah,
I,
that is the thing you need to try that, because if
okay.
your CM is not able to successfully connect with the Sitecore xConnect, then you will be not able to see data in the experience analytics reporting.
Oh, okay. Let me try that.
Generally, main thing is that the thumbprint, whatever the thumbprint you are having in the xConnect, right, for your certificate, that thumbprint needs to be mentioned in the connection string of your CM and CD.
Yes, yeah, that is there. Connection string thumbprint I already mentioned. Yes.
Okay, that is the thing. Maulik has done something right earlier also, so he's been done.
Yeah, this xConnect connectivity is one of
Even
the most
base,
nightmare.
yeah. So that is very difficult. If you have not initially identified it is working fine, and if you have built up your project, then it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've shared a link, maybe helpful to you. I have lots of visits on this particular because number of people are facing the same issue. Your xConnect is not working, there is an error, and that comes to certificate error.
Mostly
Yeah,
it's a certificate error.
one time I got a certificate error and I resolved it. What I did is I again, reinstalled everything.
Mhm.
I mean, the services was not started, and I installed one more instance, and I tried almost one day. Even I removed all the certificates, and again I reinstalled that everything, but it was not working. And again, the entire solution I reinstalled, and it started working. All the services have started working. But when it comes to that MongoDB to the Sitecore 10, I mean, in between there are two tenants I created. One is xDB to, um, uh, sorry, 1 minute. Let me check that.
Sagar, I think what we can do is we can continue with Amit's session, and
Yes, yes,
we can have this discussion later if we have time.
yes,
Or
sure.
feel free to reach out to Amit. He is always available on Slack. Even I am seeing he's midnight. He is responding. I'm like, what time he is sleeping? So you can definitely reach out to him on Slack. He is very much active on that.
Sure. I'll reach out to Amit. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Sagar. So, so when the data will be aggregated to reporting, then you will be start seeing it into this. And if you are seeing in the left hand side that content management is also accessing the xConnect API, content delivery also, or if you are having any third party requester also, there also you can use the xConnect, because they are the scenarios comes into the picture that you need to send data from a non-Sitecore context also to your Sitecore. So in those cases, you need to rely on the OData endpoints, and with the help of that, you can send back data to the Sitecore itself. And here also, I was trying to explain that the same way that xConnect collections as service is being utilized by the content management API, xConnect client API is being utilized by the content delivery, and other services also relying on the xConnect client API. And also the main thing is the reporting and the xConnect server, which is nothing but a web app or a microservices. And they are interacting with the reporting, search indexes, and the collection database. And separately, you are having the processing roles, you can say that, which is processing all the things. And coming to the other section is that Sitecore xDB data storage. So in this section, I will be explaining that I will be giving you the overview of how the database is being, what are the tables are present in the xDB collection database, and which are the important tables which you can utilize to see if you are facing any issue in collecting the data while pushing from the front end to back end. So as I said that we are having a two shards, shard 0 and the shard 1, and the main entity is the Sitecore contact, right? In this, whatever the contact you are creating, all the contact ID is being present here. And while setting up a first name and last name and the email address, you are generally basically setting up the contact facets. Those data will be stored in the contact facet, and whatever the interaction you are doing it. For example, if you are accessing any page, or if you have achieved any goal, or if you have fired any campaign, or you are coming to any website, to your Sitecore website via any email campaign or a LinkedIn or any social media campaign. So all that data will be stored in the interactions table. And that interaction table generally will be having all the data, whatever the things you are doing on the website, all is being stored there. So as you're aware that when you will be first landing into the website, so by default, all the tracking with respect to a user will be happening as anonymous, right? So there is no use of that data because you are not able to target any of your user. So generally website is having a subscription type of thing. So that is the behavior we generally needs to apply on our website to make user a known contact. So then Sitecore will convert all the anonymous tracking and replacing with the known contact or a known user. And then all the in the behind, all the references will be automatically changed. And when you will go to the experience profile, you will be start seeing whatever the actions you have performed on the website, all the activity will start coming into the experience profile. And coming to that, so you have seen the xDB database, right? So while you are accessing the xConnect namespaces, so these are the core collection model which you can utilize. So here you can see that the contact entity is present. So while you are searching any contact, either you can pass a GUID if you are knowing it, or you can search with the identifier also, where you need to pass the identifier. So identifier is nothing but a email address people are using, and the source is nothing but from which source users are coming, right? So those things can also be used to search. And as you can see that the contact is being used in most of the entities, right? And with the help of that, you can get data out of the Sitecore xConnect API itself. That is a one way to get the data. And coming to the contact model and their facet. So these are the main facets which is being utilized by the Sitecore to push all the data with respect to any contact. So as I was explaining that you will be creating a contact which will be generally stored into the personal information facets. Email address will be going into the email address list. And if you are subscribing to any sort of list, right, you are having list manager. So all those details will be coming into the list subscription. And if you are storing a address, and those things will be going to the address list. So for example, if you are having a website, right, where you are having the registration functionality also. So generally in those cases, you are having the registration form, and you are also capturing a custom data also, or attributes like a roles or employee name, or what is the revenue, or any sort of data which is required by your organization or a project to attach with contact. So you can also create your custom facets also, and you can push back data to the Sitecore itself. And later that can be utilized by any users. So nowadays, in most of the websites, you are seeing a save content or a bookmark, right? So for that also, you can create a custom facets, and you can push that data to Sitecore xDB, and later you can build any sort of report out of that. And this is the one of the snapshot of the contact facet. So it is generally having a contact ID and the name of the facet key, and all the data related to the contact is being stored in the facet data. So when you were using the Sitecore 8, there we were having the MongoDB. So contact entity was the main entity, and below that you will be able to see the child element, right? The email address list and those lists, right? So those has been converted into a JSON, and that is being pushed to the this facet data field. And also you are seeing a some sort of a class name, right? That is nothing but a typed instance of the your data. So while you are accessing a data out of the Sitecore, you need to pass the name of the contact facet, and Sitecore will map that contact facet with this type. Then only you will be able to get the data. So that's why it's a tightly, you can say that the typed fields or the data is there. So with the help of that, you can get data out of that. So this is giving you the all the data which are stored in the contact facet with respect to your contact, right? So I passed here the contact ID, you will be able to get all the contact facet data. And now if suppose you want to verify anything, so you can use the SQL query to get the data out of that also. So it's not a very difficult thing to get a data from the xDB, but you need to write a SQL queries to get the data. Here I am getting the data from the personal and the email facet. So with the help of that, you can get all of the data. And I was also explaining about the interaction table, right? So in the interaction table, if you will see, it is having a start date also, goals, outcome, and in any given point of time, if you are performing any action on your website, right? So all is being stored as a child ID. So interaction cache is a array and it is storing all your interaction. So how this is being utilized? So if you will go to your Sitecore experience profile and click on any of the Sitecore contact, so you will be saying that there is a activity tab is there. So if you will go to that activity, it is giving you the total hours or the time spent by the user. So that is being calculated on the basis of this interaction in a single visit, and it will be fetched from here, because here you are seeing the goals ID, outcomes, page view, event ID. So all the IDs from your web database is being stored here. If you are firing any goals or achieving a or firing any campaign, any event, so all the items which are present in the page events or your marketing means list where the goals and all other campaign were present, so all is being stored in the form of ID here. So with the help of that, you can get all the data with respect to any user. So now in this section, I will be explaining about how I can access the Sitecore xDB data. So as I said that Sitecore is providing a 3 ways to access the Sitecore xDB data. One is that if you are writing any code within a Sitecore context, so you can utilize the xConnect, you can say that the namespaces to directly access the data, because internally it will be making a call to connection string and get the API details. And other is the non Sitecore context, then you can use the OData API. There you need to use the xConnect SDK, but you need to pass the OData API endpoint also related to search xConnect. 3 URLs you need to pass, and also there you need to pass the certificate also. Certificate thumbprint also you need to pass, because xConnect is a microservices and the handshaking between two parties will be happening with the help of a thumbprint only to make the secure connection. And the third way is that you can utilize the xDB database directly, and then you can access the data. So with the help of my analysis, so I have identified 6 ways which can be utilized to send data from your Sitecore environment to a third-party database or any other downstream system in your organization where you can process it. So First way is that you will create a batch job and deploy into a CD server. That is the simplest way. Or you can create the scheduler which will run a off business hour and collect that, but it will put a load on your Sitecore CD server. But if you are running into a off business hour, I don't think so. It's a very big thing. But someone will not allow, or some organization will not go with that due to load or any sort of security or anything. And other way is that you can directly consume a Sitecore xConnect OData API into Azure Data Factory, because in Azure Data Factory connectors are there related to the OData API. You can consume that and you can orchestrate that data as per your need, and you can push back to any sort of sources or any API of your reporting system, like a Power BI, so that from there you can build up your Power BI reporting. So Power BI also providing you a API endpoint. There you need to generally create a, you can say that a schema first, like a schema is nothing but you need to identify or define a data tables there, and the data tables, within data tables you need to define the fields also. So from your this any requester, you can make a call to specific data schema. You can push a data also directly via API if you are not logging into the Power BI and doing any connectivity. And third option is that you can directly consume your OData API endpoints into the Power BI. So Power BI also giving you the some sort of API consumption things, but it is not allowing you to pass any sort of credential like your OData API endpoint. So in those cases, you generally needs to remove the authentication from your OData API, then only you can consume that. So if you are going via a third option, so in those cases, you need to put a security in the form of a IP restriction, or if you are having a point-to-point connectivity between a Power BI, your the Office 365 or Azure point-to-point connectivity, with that only you can make a security. That is also possible if you don't want to write any custom code. And fourth option is that xConnect Client API Service plugin. So that is also a very good thing in the xConnect. So this also can be utilized. It is a runtime and you do not need to wait for anything. At a real time you can push data to any of the data. So I will be explaining in the further slides how it can be done. And fifth option is that you will directly access the xDB database. Either you will take the data, manipulate it, and push back to any data source, or you then directly consume your database into any reporting system like a Power BI, and you can do the data orchestration. And sixth point is that generally this is being used by the enterprise organization where they are doing the businesses with the in many streams, like if they are into the hotel business, or they are into the travel, or they are into the FMCG, or uh, in the medical vertical, and they are having some sort of a club membership, right? So they are generally having a data lake, and there you are pushing the data from many sources. So that type of integration can also be utilized by using the xConnect API or xService plugin. Any sort of real-time integration, we can do that. So let me explain with the help of a flow. So for example, here I will be explaining a first option where I will be creating a batch job with the help of a Sitecore xConnect namespaces, and I will be creating a batch job or a scheduler. So let's say you are having a new user in your website and you are having the registration form. And once you will submit the data, you will send a first name, last name, and email to your IAM system like identity and access management system, for example, Okta, right? So then they will send you the link to activate your account. In the meantime, you are also creating a Sitecore contact also within a Sitecore and creating a virtual user, right? So with the help of that, what you are creating, so the user which came to your website was an unknown user or anonymous user. Now with by creating the Sitecore contact, you are making him a known user. So at that time, once you will use the Sitecore xConnect models, right? So you are pushing data to the Sitecore xDB. So now if you are having a your xConnect or for example, you are having your batch job. So what it can do that it will run in a off business hour and it will send data to the xDB or sorry, any third party database or any API itself. And here also you can do all the data orchestration because data is being pushed to the Sitecore xDB is a raw data and you need to make a join with your WebDB to get a display name of your item. So all those orchestration you can do in this, but this will require a lot of effort because you need to do the data orchestration, right? So, but it will be a scaled solution, right? And also you will be having a full flexibility, whatever you wanted to do. And if you are having the data orchestrated data in the custom DB, then you can build up or send this data to any reporting database, or you can write a web application within a Sitecore itself to your admin. With the help of a client-side scripting, you can build up any sort of, you can say that a reporting charts, anything you can do that. That is also one of the option. Second option is that you can directly send data from your xConnect OData API connector to your you can do the xDB data orchestration, the whatever the data you have received from the Azure Data Factory, and that also you can push to custom database for the future use, or you can directly push to Power BI API also. So there is a restriction with the Power BI API because within a 10 minutes you can make a 300 calls only, concurrent calls. If it is a more than that, it will pause a or it will stop the API endpoint for a 2 minutes or a 1 minute, and after then it will resume. So if you are having a lots of user loads into your website, and if you are doing the real-time integration or offline also where you are calling a syncing a data every day, right? And if you are using the threading sort of things, in that case also your code can break because it will stop the connectivity. So that also you need to consider while you are doing any sort of integration. What is the limitation of any of the API endpoint, right? Third is that you will directly consuming your xConnect OData API into Power BI with the help of a OData connector. So there nothing, no restriction will be there. The only things you need to take care of that, you need to remove the security and you need to put the network security to secure your xConnect endpoint. That things you need to do. And once you will push the data from your xConnect OData API, you can do data manipulation very easily in the Power BI, because Power BI is providing you a many out of the box feature. You just need to right click and you can do anything with the data sets, whatever you have received from any data source. You do not need to write any code there. And fourth option is a xConnect client API service plugin. So what happened with this? Suppose if you are submitting a data and creating a contact in Sitecore with the help of a add contact. So once the contact will be added into the Sitecore, then it will generate a one event called a contact, add contact. And that event will be coming to your pipeline, which is you have to write it like with the help of a Sitecore xConnect service plugin. There you can get the contact ID also. And now if I am setting up any facet like a first name, last name or email address, then again it will generate a event, and that also you can set means to get. And with the help of that, you do not need to do any data orchestration or anything at a later phase. You can get data into your code and you can put that into your POCO classes at a real time, and then later you can push that to your any sort of database or any data source wherever you want to push. So that is also one of the you can say that the flexibility from the xConnect client API to push the data as a real time also. That is also possible. And fifth option is that you are directly consuming the XDB data. You are not relying on the any API or anything. So in this case, either you will write a batch job or any sort of mechanism which will read your database and do anything, or you can directly sync or replicate this data into the Power BI, and from there you can build up your reporting. That also you can do that in this option. And sixth option, which I was telling you, is that if you are having the Sitecore as a content management system and you want to send any data to your downstream system, suppose you are having a many consumer, right? Or you need to send data to a data lake where you are creating the customer 360-degree view. So in those cases, you need to use the message queue based system like a Kafka, which will later will send data to any downstream system, any database, or any sort of system can consume that data. So that is also one of the possibilities. So if you are having a client where you need to share the data from more than one sources, from more than one requester, right? So you can utilize the Kafka or any message queue-based system. So that is also one of the option. You can send data from a xConnect via xConnect client API like a service plugin, or if you are having the xDB also, right? So database is also having the triggers. So if any data or any update is happening in your database, then you can send event to the Kafka itself. So that type of integration also can be doable in this. And suppose if you are providing a solution or for any problem statement, right? So generally client will be providing you their main requirement, right? So some NFR will be there or some sort of functional requirement. So if you are having a more than one solution, so you can come up with these sort of requirements, and you can create a tabular format and you can present to your client that I have identified these many options, like I have identified the 6 options, right? So what is the performance data point for that? What is the security point for that? So you can give the numbers or ratings to them, and then you can present to your client, and they can select a specific solution as per their need itself. So that is also one of the suggested way if you are presenting back any solution to your client. And these are the generic criteria or the requirement. This will be present in any sort of integration points or any sort of solution which you are proposing to your client. So any question in this options which I have explained till this point?
So, Amit, not really a question as such. It
Okay.
looks great, but do you real life experience? You talked about Kafka and
Yeah, I have
Power
used
BI.
that. I have used that Kafka as well as Power
Okay.
BI. I am explaining how I have done it.
So Kafka, you brought back data from the
No,
other
so
system. You're
yeah,
just pushing
so
data.
no, I have used the two-way communication with that. So in my application, I was having you can say that the form was there. So I was collecting a data and I was sending that user specific data because I was having a registration form, and I was doing the registration and I was sending to the Sitecore XDB in terms of creating the contact. And also I am sending back that lead to my downstream system because I was having a Hadoop based data lake, right? And that data lake is having a data from a many other sources also. So we were not having a one application where user can land, right? We were having a multiple application. So to create a customer 360-degree view from how many data points or a sources user are coming to our system, that things we were building in a data lake. So we were sending because in the Kafka you are having a topics, like if my website is a Amit topics, I will send my data set to my Amit topic, and there will be a listener will be present downstream, right? Who are continuously listening to topic to which they are authorized to listen. It's not like that everyone can authorize. In Kafka, I can control which requester can listen to which topic. So there we were sending, and also in a Sitecore, we were having some sort of, you can say that the data site locations were there, right? Where user can visit the site. That data is being uh, sent to multiple, you can say that the websites within my organization, right? So my website was one of the consumer. So in those cases, they were continuously publishing data to Kafka, and I was having some sort of batch job as a scheduler who will be running in a off business hour, and that will be listening to all the messages who are pushed in a day, right? And I was updating that data back in my Sitecore CMS and a master database, and I was publishing it at a overnight.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and that user was able to see when they were coming to registration, which site is nearest to them. They need to enter their zip code or something. So that sort of integration was there.
Mm. Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Welcome. So in this section, I will be explaining about a Power BI integration, which I did as a some sort of POC earlier, and then later we have given that to a Power BI expert. So what is in this we have done that. So suppose in any of the options you are sending data to the Power BI, right? So suppose what I picked up a option fifth where I have directly sync my Sitecore databases to the Power BI. I replicated that. Why? Because I don't want to write a custom code and later I need to update or delete anything. So I directly go via that path. So in this case, what I did that I I was having my xDB database, I was having my reporting database, I was having my web database. So all I replicated in the Power BI. So Power BI is providing you a connector where you can replicate your databases. So you can do that, and also it is providing you a functionality to refresh the database at any given point of time. So that also we have activated so that if any data is being updated in my Sitecore xDB or a WebDB, like a name changing or anything, I will be pushing back that my data to my Power BI also, right? So in this, we have identified a 5 steps which we have utilized to build up a reporting dashboard. So in the step one, what we did that, whatever the databases we need to replicate, we did that. In step one, all the data tables are having the raw data. In the step two, we have done some sort of orchestration. For example, I shown you that in custom facets table of a xDB collection database, all data are present in the JSON format, right? So what I did that in the uh, Power BI, if you will sync all your data, you will be having a data table type of view in coming in the Power BI. If you want to do any sort of data manipulation on that, you just need to select that data column and you can convert that or manipulate. They will provide you a set of the functionalities which you can select and you can do the manipulation. So there is one of the option is that you can deserialize the JSON data also. So what I did that in that step, in the step 2, I deserialize all my JSON into a number of rows with a contact ID. So that is a inbuilt functionality. So now with the help of that, I created a relationship between a different table, and I have created a flat tables of all the data which are present for my contact, right? Now in the step 3, what I did that, so there may be a data or a view which is not present and required by my reporting system. So I created a those table in my Power BI system, that is a runtime table, right? Whatever the data physical table you are having, you can create a views out of that. That I did that in the step 3, and also I will be having some dummy data also or testing data also. So I removed that data in a step 3 itself. So I created some sort of a query in the Power BI where I mentioned that is valid, yes or no. And that also I placed in the step 3. Now in the step 4, I was having a refined data set. Whatever the data is required by my Power BI reporting system, all was present in the step 4. So for this slide, I will show you how I have orchestrated all the data. So, and Power BI is also providing you with one sort of a query language called a DAX. That is very easy language. So you can manipulate all the data similar to the Excel, right? You are having a map or floor, all those things are present in this, and you can create a table also at a runtime with this query. So all the function operators you can do. That is also very useful, and you can apply on your model itself. And when you will set up this, so you will be seeing this type of steps, because in Power BI you can define a steps how the data will flow from a step 1 to step 5. So that will be coming. And this is the step 1 where I was telling you, right? I have created you can say that the replica of my databases. So I have created a replica of a xDB collection database, also my WebDB. So this xDB collection interaction is nothing but data from the xDB collection database, and this item is coming from the web database, because user are accessing any pages, right? And that are being stored as a page events. And the Sitecore is storing a ID of that. But in reporting, I need to display the name. So that's why I rely on the web database. And all the fields I will be able to get from the version field. So for example, in the step 1, I was having this xDB collection contact first. Then I created a raw contact where the contact ID, percentile, everything, whatever the manipulation I wanted to do, I did that. And also in the step 3 where I did all the data orchestration. So you are seeing that I will be able to create a flat table where contact ID, created date, first name, last name, department, zip code, contact email is valid, which I was telling. I did the data manipulation. It will be giving you a Boolean value. So earlier this data was present in the form of a JSON, but with the help of a Power BI, I easily converted that into a column itself. So that type of flexibility is present in the Power BI without writing any code. And after doing all these things and the data which present in the step 4, I was able to, this is one of the snapshot, the early snapshot of the report, where I was able to create a dashboard where the total number of visits and the page view data, I was able to do that. And we also created you can say that the date parameter, where similar to experience analytics. So that also you can do that, but by default, it will be able to give you a 5 or 6 month, whatever you wanted to set in your filter, that it can do that. And here you are seeing one interesting thing is that the metadata performance. So this metadata performance you will be not getting in the Sitecore Experience Analytics. But this is very important when you are having the content driven website, because you are having the content authoring team and they wanted to know that what are the content from their website which is based on any topic or the metadata is accessed by the user very frequently, right? So that also I was able to capture in the form of a chart. So what we did that, how we came to this data, because in my application, I have having a goals to my articles, right? And also if you are accessing any sort of content in my website and if it is tagged with any of the content, I was firing a goal events for that. Also, when you are searching in my website and if you are clicking on any of the content, right? So if that content is having a metadata attached to that, I am passing that metadata back with the help of a page events to my site code. So I have written a those type of granular level data capturing in a site code And with the help of that, I will be able to capture how my metadata is performing. So this is very important when you are creating a content for your end user. And how many total number of views till date your website is having, and how many times users have interacted with your website, and how many times user have submitted the contact us form or any of the goals, right? So this you can say that the data points or the aggregated data reports you cannot get in the Sitecore analytics reporting. And this is the flat table which I can create in my Power BI itself. With the help of that, if they need to run any sort of, you can say that the campaign outside of the Sitecore, or they need to send any CRM system, right? They can directly take this data and send back. So they do not need to do anything with the Sitecore. That also possible. And this is another view of the reporting of the metadata, right? So it's depending upon your organization need. You can create any sort of a reporting, or you can use a chart. And also, if you wanted to know that how many times a specific user have interacted, right? And how many times that user subscribed to my website and downloaded assets or click on the FAQ content, right? So all these things you can do with the help of a Power BI reporting. So suppose if you have this flat data, right? So you can do any sort of campaign out of this also, and you can again sync back data to the Sitecore itself, right? From your Power BI, because you have created the data or orchestrated the data on the basis of a many parameter, but that is not possible in the Sitecore. So with this, we created initially a report which was very liked by the client, business user, as well as the content author, how their data is performing. So now we have extended that report to a multiple things, but I haven't captured those screenshot here. So I have done from my side. So any sort of question, I am open for that.
Amit,
Yeah.
one of the things that, like, and this is all great, that we face is, I don't know if you have faced the same thing or not.
Mm.
A lot of clients, like, they
Mm.
know that xDB is available, xConnect xDB, and all these
Mm.
features and everything is available
Mm.
in Sitecore,
Mm.
but they would not go for that. They would rather use, like,
GTM.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, yeah. So
Exactly. So,
yeah,
so
that is the same thing I
one,
have faced.
yeah. So one reason for that is actually the expertise on their part. Like, more people know about GTM than Sitecore.
Mm-hmm.
But other thing that I feel like, there is too much involvement of developers in this Sitecore process, because
Mm.
in case of GTM, you can just drop a piece of code and then you can play with data layer and you can create all this analysis.
Yeah. So I agreed with you, Himadri. So there are two types of things it will happen. First thing is that which region of client you are having. So suppose if you are having the US client, so they basically rely on the GTM, right?
Mhm.
And because if we are a implementation partner, and if they are having any digital marketing team, they are well versed in the these type of GTM analytics, right? And if their organization have already adopted, and we are bringing up a Sitecore as a new tool, and they have invested, then we need to educate them. I did that in earlier in my two engagements. So we told that we do not need to do a lot of integration in this, right? Because if in near future you are going to implement a foolproof data privacy application, you cannot rely on the Google, because Google is capturing everything if you are doing anything, right, within your website. So that is a best selling point. You can utilize that. And if you are having a European client, they also not relying on the GTM. That's why they are buying the Sitecore or the Adobe product, because they know that Sitecore product, whatever they are capturing, they are not selling to anyone. That is a one thing. And also in the Sitecore implementation, to avoid the you can say that the developer intervention. So what we can do that while we are designing the template for any of the screen, right, within a Sitecore, right? So generally, if we were having a this digital marketing related requirement upfront, generally it's are present during the discovery phase, right? What are the touch point they need to capture or a event they need to capture? Then we can pass a you can say that the field as a ID of any of the event, right? And in my application or a code, we can introduce some sort of a data attribute. So generally in HTML, you can have a data attribute, right? Data, any site of attribute, right? That you can, I have done in that way, I have introduced that. And if after clicking on that button and if I am founding any data element to my data campaign, right? And it is also, I am mentioning some sort of a key there. It's a goal or a page event, right? Then dynamically I am firing a page event or a whatever the event they wanted to fire. I did that via JavaScript as well as a server side. That is
Yeah,
also one way to remove the developer intervention.
yeah. So definitely, I think your use case of Kafka is really something that where I feel like, xDB and xConnect is
Yes.
it actually is. So the other thing that you mentioned that in the region, but I think in Google case also, if you sign up for Google, they are not supposed to actually share your data to others. But
But it is not a
like, the it
foolproof
is
implementation.
right. I mean, so privacy wise, I don't feel like if you are a client of Google, they will share your data with other clients in terms of GTM. But I saw the main thing drive them to go towards that is the amount of, like,
Easiness
development and
to,
things,
yes.
easiness to that, and amount of
That is the main
people
thing.
available.
Agreed.
But
But the main thing
I
is that
think,
the sales team which are selling the Sitecore product to them, right? That are also not educating them how you can extensively utilize the Sitecore. That is the
yeah,
main
I
problem I have
think
seen.
so. Yeah,
That
no,
is the main thing.
I think they don't actually talk about this kind of use case. So
Yes.
if it is like, purely analytics, okay, GTM is fine. But when you are talking about, okay, you are capturing this data in GTM, can you use it to, like, use it to personalize your website based on the Google data, or some kind of, like, this Kafka kind of use case, like, complex use case? No, you cannot do that.
No,
Okay,
Google
so
is providing a Google Optimize, right? So there you
yeah,
can
they
also
have,
personalize.
like,
Yeah.
optimized, but it is not, you
Ah,
are
that
like,
level.
yeah. So those are the thing, but I think
In my
most
current
cases, like,
implementation, what
yeah,
we are
most
doing is
cases, yeah.
we are
Now, most
extensively
cases,
utilizing.
clients are like, they don't go in so much deep into, like, using the features. They just capture data, some simple analytics and stuff, and they are happy with that. So I
See,
think
the
that's the
main
problem.
disadvantage here is that once you will sell first time, right, they are happy. When the thing will come to renew, then they will realize that they are not utilizing what they can utilize. But till that time, they have invested so much time and they have collected so much data which they cannot get out of GTM and they can't push to the Sitecore
Yeah.
because they are
Yeah.
not knowing in the upfront that how extensively they can utilize and they do not need to rely on the GTM. So that
Yeah.
education or the you can say that the session before selling the product, right? That
Yeah.
needs to be done. Generally, it's a
Yeah.
10 slides are there when they are selling, right? And they will more emphasize on the AI only, which is not mature enough currently, right? So that is the selling point nowadays, but not
Yeah.
the X.
Yeah. Chandrakant, you have a question?
Yes, Himadri. Now that Sitecore is moving towards composable DXC with the customer data platform, so in future, are we expecting migrations from xConnect to CDP? If so, what are among the options you suggested? What would be the best option to
So-
migrate to
So if you are on the XP, you cannot do the composable. That is the main thing. You either you need to, currently there is no migrator came into the picture from where you can push your xConnect data to the CDP. That is my understanding,
Yes, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you need to write something custom if you are moving away from the XP. But if you have bought the XP, right? And if you are moving to XM, right? That picture will come when you wanted to save the cost, right? And you are not utilizing or running any campaign, and your organization is ready to rely on the Sitecore send and CDP, right?
Yeah.
Then only those things will happen. But what happened that you have invested so much time and the effort in building your system, right? Whole, and you will not go away from that just for a saving a cost. So many things will comes into picture.
Yeah, mostly from my experience during an upgrade, even most of the clients are not keen in retaining the historical data as well. Like,
Yes.
so, like you
In
can
those
say,
cases, we can do that. In those cases, we can do that. The XM way, we can do that.
yeah,
Right. And also what happened that suppose if you are nowadays, I have seen many implementation where Sitecore is just being used as a content management system, and they can do that thing with the database also, right? And they are even not touching the EXM or anything, right?
correct.
When they are doing the upgrade, then they realizing that they are spending so much time, so much money in the licensing cost. Then they are agree to move to XM.
Yeah.
That is
Uh,
the case.
on the other topic, I have a question related to the scaling. So, like we mentioned that there are 2 shards.
Yes.
So to scale, can we increase the number of shards? Or
Yes, we can increase that, but before increasing that, it's better you can horizontal scale the xConnect.
Okay.
But generally, in my previous experience, we have done the load testing with the 500 user, and I was easily able to see that xConnect was working fine, where we were just pushing the data related to the registration,
Okay.
like one registration form data, right? But if you are having a 1,000 of concurrent user, right? At that time, you need to see that. But in my earlier implementation, we were did with the Sitecore 8 itself, right?
Yeah.
And during COVID time, we were having around a monthly, we were having a 1 lakh of users was there who were doing the registration. And at any given point of time, maybe 300, 400 with Sitecore 8 itself, we were able to survive. Nothing happened with the MongoDB itself.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Amit.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So you can reach out to me if you have any question, right? So via any channel, LinkedIn or Slack. So I will be happy to answer if any queries related to xConnect or any topic which I am aware.
Sure.
All right.
Thanks. I think
Great
any
session.
other question? Stop the